Hey everybody, welcome to this mini-series called Open Chord Secrets, where instead of just memorizing new chord shapes, we understand these chords at a deeper level and make smart adjustments to create new variations and make your chord playing more interesting. Today we will look at a very familiar chord for most people, the C major chord in the open position. Now, this is not actually the C major chord. It's just one voicing for the C major chord. Voicing, that's an important word, and you'll see what that means. Every chord, every simple chord like major or minor, is made out of 3 notes, and we number those notes starting on the root note. So in the case of C major, we start counting up to 5, C, D, E, F, G, and we pick up degrees 1, 3, and 5. So it's C, E, and G. Every voicing of the C major chord is made up of those 3 notes, but you can mix them around, you can double some of them if you want. You can arrange and configure those 3 notes in many different ways, and those different configurations are what we call voicings. So, this could be a C major, this could be a C major, you can even create unusual configurations of your own if you want. So these are all different voicings of the C major chord. And what we'll study today is the voicing of the C major chord that happens to be in the open position of the guitar. Now, there are a couple of things that are special about this particular configuration. First of all, it uses open strings, and open strings create a different sound, a more vibrant sound, because the strings vibrate from the nut to the bridge without our fingers dampening the sound. So open position chords have this special, more resonant character. Now, another characteristic of this position is that the chord tones, numbers 1, 3, and 5 we saw before, they're actually in order. C, E, G, C, E. That's not very usual on the guitar. Because of how the guitar is tuned and the layout of the fretboard, it's very rare that we see chords arranged in order. Usually the notes are mixed up in different ways. And that's not a bad thing. A chord is not better or worse if it's arranged in order. But the only reason I'm sharing this is because we want to understand the structure of this chord. And knowing that the notes are in order is going to help you remember that. Your mind has something to latch onto to remember the structure of this chord. And why do we want to learn the structure of the chord? Because we want to mess with it. We want to create embellishments and new variations of the C major chord by changing some of these notes. And the first note we're going to mess with is the root note, degree number 1, but not the one in the bass. We don't want to mess with that because when you change the bass notes, we have different implications we're going to talk about later. We're going to replace the other C on string 2. And we're going to replace it with a note that's 2 frets above it. That's degree 2, and the first way you can use degree 2 is just use it as an embellishment over the C major chord. When you do something like this, you're not really changing the chord. It's still a C major, just with an embellishment. Really, what you're doing is adding a background melody that supports the main melody of the singer or whoever is soloing at that moment. So the harmony hasn't really changed. It's still C major, just with an embellishment using the 2nd degree. But what if you play that 2nd degree and keep it there? In this case, the character of the chord has changed a bit. So we don't call it a C major anymore. We call it a C add 9. Now you may be wondering, why do we call it a 9 since it's degree number 2? Well, number 2 and number 9 are actually the same note. If you start counting on C, C, D, number 2 is the note D. If you go 9 up, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D again. It's the same exact note. But why do we spell it a 2 sometimes and a 9 some other times? Well, it's a rule in music spelling, in music theory. It's like when you're spelling words in language. Some words have the same sound but are spelled differently, and by the spelling you can tell the meaning of that word. It's the exact same thing here. In both cases, it's a D, and it's the same exact D at the same place, but whenever we use odd numbers in music, Odd numbers represent chord tones. A chord is built on 1, 3, 5, and then potentially 7, 9, 11, 13. So we use odd numbers to represent chord tones. And in this case, we made that D a chord tone. We kept it there. It's part of the harmony. So since it's a part of the chord, we call it a 9. In the previous case, where we just went to that D and came back, that was just melodic movement within the C major chord, so we call it a 2. Of course, there are a few exceptions to this rule, like the sus4 and the sus2 chords, but we're not going to talk about that yet. So just by building on our understanding of the open position C major chord, you now have two elements that you can use in your playing. You can use embellishments whenever you have a song that has a C chord and you want to make it a little bit more interesting. Of course, you got to be careful because it doesn't sound good in every song. Some songs require you to play more simply. But in most cases, you can make it interesting by just adding that 2 and then going back to the C. And now you also know what to do whenever you see a C add 9 chord in a song. You just play the C major chord and replace that C by putting your pinky on the D. So by giving your mind something to latch onto, you don't feel like you memorized a new chord right now. You felt like you understood music more, which makes it exciting and helps your memory retain the information. Now, to make that information permanent, we need to apply what we learned. So if you're watching this inside Open Chord Secrets, you should find some special backing tracks and instructions to practice this under this video. You'll be taking the role of the rhythm guitar player within a band context. If you're watching this on YouTube or social media, then there should be a link around here for you to get the complete free mini course that includes all the lessons and the practice tracks in this series. Alright, that's it. This is Prokopis from String Systems, reminding you to enjoy your practice and be effective.